Hi everyone, good morning. I think it's morning, I'm not sure. Just back from Bangkok. Make me love you. Now, I'm going to make this the final episode for now. It's episode 11. Reason being, there's a good chance in about 2 months' time, I'm going to meet up with Leon. Either in Bangkok or Pattaya. So I'm hoping to get all the latest updates from him and even ask him if he'll consider coming on video or live stream. We'll see. So as we left it, Leon had a month's work and it was Hong Kong or somewhere. And he disappeared. Now, 5 weeks later, he reappeared briefly, and one of his work colleagues had fallen ill and just retired, who looked after Australia and New Zealand, I believe it was. And his company had decided also, Leon and a couple other guys were getting older, they were going to employ 2 new guys, and they would get Leon, give one guy to Leon to train, and another guy who did wherever, South America, wherever. And Leon was very cheesed off, to say the least. He was going to have to train this guy, as well as do his own work around Asia. He was going to have to go across to Australia and New Zealand and cover half that area, and the other new guy and the other guy would cover the other half. He was going to get double the amount of money because of the amount of work he was doing, but he was fed up, really was fed up. And hadn't had a chance to do any more searching. So he disappeared off. It was actually about 7 months went by before he came back. And when he came back, he was very happy. He'd got a month's holiday. He'd trained the guy, and both the new guys were fine. So he had no worries there. He said he might have to do one trip over to Australia or New Zealand just to do some checking, but he was all right. So he was back to being happy. Immediately he started searching, and let's just move that back a bit. He hit Soi 6 every day, every evening for a good week to 10 days. But no luck at all. Quite a few of the ladyboys had not had the major operation, let's call it, the operation below. And a couple he found that had were just not suitable. And I remember him sat next to me in the bar, I think it was an evening, and he was like, I now know what I want. I have found the right formula, I think he called it. And he said, I've just got to find the right person to fulfill that formula. And I said to him, I remember saying to him, Bangkok, surely Bangkok is the place. There's going to be more choice there if you can find the right areas, and it might cost you a bit more. I said, but surely this is the place. And there was other places around the country, Phuket. They've got a big ladyboy show down there. And he's like, I really don't like Bangkok. And I said, well, let me ask around and see if I can find some info out for you. And I did. I think probably the next day I told him. The main areas in Bangkok for entertainment were Soi Cowboy, which is between Soi 21 and Soi 23 Sukhumvit Road. Nana Plaza, which is Soi 4 Sukhumvit Road. And Pat Pong, which is known as Silom. Pat Pong being really the original entertainment zone. And I said, there are some other areas which just Thai people. I said, so you need to really stick to the Farang entertainment zones. I said, and then all the way along Sukhumvit Road, there's all the sois running off pretty much between Soi 3, 4, all the way out to around about Soi 40, 38. I said, there's quite a few. And remember, this is 20 years ago. There was a lot of ladyboy bars around then. I said, there's lots. If you stay in Sukhumvit, and I've just done this trip, if you stay in Sukhumvit, it's friendly and great atmosphere, and there are lots and lots of bars and clubs in that area. I said, you've got to try it. And he's like, well, I've got a job in 3 weeks' time. My first job back is up in Bangkok. He said, not really fancying it. He said, I'm going to continue looking round Pattaya. I said, okay. And he did. For the next 3 weeks, he stayed in Pattaya, and no joy. But just before his end of his holiday, he turned back up with the shorter ladyboy that hadn't had the breast enlargements. Back with her again. He said, I was just checking on her. I wanted to see if she was all right and spend the night with her. I said, okay. And he's like, yeah, it's brilliant, but it's just too short and that. And I went, I don't know why you don't just pay for it. I said, come on, mate, you just pay for it and throw some money at her and then buy her big shoes. And he's like, nah. His holiday came to an end, and he went off to work in Bangkok. Now, it was about, I'm guessing, so another 2 months gone by, and he turned back up. Very, very happy. I said, you look extremely happy. What's going on? He said, well, I worked in Bangkok for a few days, he said, and I had a week wandering around. He said, you were right. He said, there was lots around, and Sukhumvit has got everything. He said, I found so many new ladyboys and ladyboy bars, and they were actually, a couple I went into, he said, down the soys off Sukhumvit, they were happy to talk to me, and they just knew lots of ladyboys and where they were working. And he said, I had a great time. Didn't find the perfect one. Some close, he said. But then they've told me about Patong, certain streets and bars, he said. So I haven't been there. He said, I'm going. In the next few days, I'm having a few days here. He said, I'm going to Patong. You always say Patpong then, but yeah. No, not Patong. It is Patpong. Patpong. Oh dear. Yeah, Patong is down in Phuket. Patpong, Ceylon, where the great night market is. And he said, that's it. I've got 5 different bars and locations, he said. And the girls have told me that's where I'm going to strike it lucky and find the love of my life. Okay. Off he went. I don't know, a week, maybe 2 weeks went past. And he turns back up with a ladyboy. Now, I'm going to call this ladyboy, what are we going to call her? Let's just call her L. L for ladyboy. Because I cannot remember what name she was. And this ladyboy was stunning. One of the prettiest ladyboys I think I've ever seen. Again, long hair, not extensions. And was slightly older. So I would guess she was about 35, maybe a touch bigger. Maybe 37, 38. She was taller, dressed immaculate, stunning. Anyway, brought her in and I sort of got to chat to her a bit while she was doing whatever, drinking. He said, this ladyboy, everything except one problem. I said, oh God. He said, she's a number 9. I said, okay, what's wrong with Elle? He said, it's the breast enlargements again. She had them 9 years ago, I think he said, 10 years ago. And they're too big. But apparently, he said, every 10 years, they've got to have them redone. And he said, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'm like, I don't know if that's the case today. Maybe they use different materials now and it doesn't have to be done every 10 years. Comments below. He said, every 10 years they've got to be done. He said, but they were too big. They're sort of little sagging a bit. He said, oh, okay. But he said, apart from that, she's perfect. I said, so you're going to end up paying anyway, either the short girl down the road or this one. And he's like, yeah. He said, I've decided I'm going to throw some money at a ladyboy. Not literally, but I said, okay. He said, but now I've seen this one and that. She's great. He said, there were some other ones there. He said, but I've exhausted them all. He said, really, I'm now flicking my coin between this one, who's taller, who needs the enlargement repaired, replaced, serviced, serviced, a boob job, or I go back to that one that I found here in Pattaya and get her first set. He said, I'm going to have to factor in, if this becomes my partner every 10 years, a service charge. New boobs every 10 years. It's like an oil change. I said, okay. So I said, how are you going to decide? I said, can't you get that one put on a rack and made bigger, taller? No, he said. Well, I'm taking this one. It's actually a place that she had hers done here in Pattaya. And we're going to go and talk to the plastic surgeon or whatever the surgeon's called and check out prices and what will happen, because I'd like them smaller. Is it possible? I went, okay, right. And he said, we're going tomorrow. Brilliant. Off he went. Next day he went, come back. The next evening without her. I said, where's Elle? He said, well, let me tell you a story. Okay, here we go. We went to the surgeon, he said, and the surgeon said, yes, they can definitely make them smaller. It would actually be better. So take the implants out, put smaller ones in, move the skin around and all that. He said, but they'd have to relocate the nipples. I went, okay. Nipple relocation. And it was 48,000 baht at the time, or was it 58? Anyway, so a couple of $1,000. But Elle got really stroppy and had a tantrum and threw her toys out of the pram, and that put me right off her. I said, what was her tantrum? She wanted bigger, even bigger. I went, oh, that's no good. You didn't want that. He said, now, so I've told her to whistle. He said, I've kicked her out, told her to go away. He said, not interested. He said, tonight, so this must have been in the lunchtime, he said, tonight, I'm meeting the shorter girl again and have a chat. And if she's up for it, I'm going to take her to that surgeon and talk to him tomorrow. Yeah. Sure enough, it's actually the next evening. So he'd got that girl, gone to the surgeon, come in the evening with this shorter ladyboy. So I had no idea what her name was. I'll just call her Boobless. She'd had all the operations apart from that squeaker box, and I still never knew about the squeaker box, the voice box, whatever's going to go on there, and he never talked about it, but he'd taken her in. She hadn't got the money. She's struggling to save the money to do it. And they went in and talked to that surgeon, and it was a straightforward surgery. It was just a first time. And he said, I went through all these sizes, testing these different pads and stuff out, and she did as well. And we talked about it. And it was about 50, 60,000 baht or something. He said, we talked about it and got the prices. And she was happy to go for whatever size I wanted if I was going to pay for it, which I thought was great. And I said, yeah, that is good. At least you're not going to get the huge ones. And he said, yeah. So we've worked out a size. He did tell me, but I think it was 38. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, he told me the size. And this Boobless was happy. So he said, now I've got to decide if I'm going to go ahead with it with this girl and figure out a way of buying her a load of shoes as well, or is there a way of making her taller? And then we'll look at the voice later. I said, okay, sounds great. He came in the next 3-4 days with Boobless every time, and they'd been staying together. And he said, her English is getting much, much better. We talked and talked and talked, and we figured a plan out. And in exchange for me getting this boob job for her, breast enlargement, she would live in my condo as my girlfriend, he said, and I will give her an allowance every month, a salary. He said, I've worked all this out years ago. He said, I'm already miles ahead on this one, and budgets and money and family and costs and all this. He said, I've worked it all out with her, and I want to borrow Frozen in the daytime to come to our condo to go through all this and translate it. Is that possible? I went, okay. So Frozen works evenings. Dragged her across. I said, Frozen, do you want a day's work translating? And he offered her about two or 3,000 back, which was good money. And she said, yeah. So the next day, Frozen was at his condo, went through it all, and helped translate it. Now, Frozen said he had a contract. I never asked him. I don't know why I forgot. But he'd drawn up a contract with her. And she'd signed it. But I'm going to have to ask him next time I speak to him if that contract actually existed, what it was all about. For some reason, I just never did. And they'd made an agreement. And I saw him that night, I think it was, maybe the next morning. And I didn't ask about the contract. He told me everything was agreed, that Boobless was going to be his girlfriend and they were going to live together. And if he was working in Bangkok, they'd stay at the Bangkok condo. She could travel with him around Asia because maybe she didn't have a passport, but he'd get her one anyway. But she could travel around Asia, like Vietnam and Cambodia and stuff. So he was going to take her everywhere with him and try her out for a year. So that contract must be like a 1-year contract. X amount of euros, Deutschmarks, whatever. And he took her off for the operation a couple of days later. I saw her, she came back, he came back a couple of days later. She'd had the op, but she was all, obviously, a few stitches and bits and pieces. She was itching to get them out and show us, but he suggested he didn't want them on public view. A shame. Would have been interesting to see the finished article. He was over the moon. He said, what a difference. She's totally a woman now, just with a deep voice. And over the moon. He'd found his lady. He'd helped manufacture her a bit. And he was over the moon. Now, this is the end of the series for now. And this is years ago, but we have kept in touch by email. And there is more to his story going forward up to the present day. But I do really want to catch up with him in a couple of months' time and get all the gossip and the latest. There is some I already know, but it just doesn't seem right to stretch this story out where I don't know all the story. About a month after she'd had the operation, maybe 2 months, time had gone. That was the time I was starting to leave the bar, about to leave the bar. And he had disappeared off for a while. So I'd only briefly seen him a couple of times before I actually left the bar. And we've only contacted by email, so I haven't seen him again in all these years. And he's getting on now. He must be, 70, maybe a bit more. So I'm intrigued. He has told me some stuff on email, but I really want to get him on camera. So he actually, at this point, where we leave it, was really happy. His job was fine. His new girlfriend was a number 9. He still called her a number 9 after the breast implants. So really it must be just down to that voice. And he settled down with a ladyboy. He didn't expect that when he started this search. He was looking for a woman. But he opened my eyes to a lot of the reasons people go with ladyboys. And I fully understand, well, I can understand so much, you know. But he ended up at this point very happy. A happy guy. And his girl looked more like a girl than a guy. It was very, very hard to tell that in fact she was a ladyboy. But almost the perfect woman. And he sort of made her. And they fell in love. A happy ending love story, which makes a change for me. But I'm going to leave it there. And we'll see in a few months' time. So then I do envisage having, maybe not a second season, but a few videos about what happened as did they stick together? They got older together? What happened? Did his life turn out to be what he thought? I hope you've enjoyed this series. It's been fun to tell. And I'm probably going to have a couple of weeks off from love stories so I can think about which one I'm going for next. Right now I'm a choice of 3 different ones I'm thinking of, so I don't know which one to go for. Is it time? Do you want another jib story? Do you want a love story with a happy ending? Do you just want a crazy story? Let me know in the comments below. And I'll see you on another video. Have a great day, weekend. I've actually filmed this Saturday. Today, is it the 10th, 11th, 12th of December? Tonight, well, you'll see this next week. But I'm on the Richard's channel tonight on a live stream. And then I'll stream tomorrow night. Anyway, I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.